Hi there. I'd like to welcome you to week one of the St. Aidan's Institute course on Liturgics. This is the first time we've offered this course, and a tremendous amount of research was done by a number of people trying to put together the proper list of books and resources and approach to how to do this course in a short period of time in an online environment. It's very, very tricky. Liturgy really is at the heart of Anglican identity. When the English Reformation hit in the 1500s, they did agree with the Protestants that the primary of Scripture had gotten lost in the Roman Church, that a better understanding of theology had gotten lost in the Roman Church, and they agreed with the Protestants that a lot of that needed to be corrected. However, they did not seek to create a church in their own image. Followers of Calvin always end up going back to Calvin to get an understanding of what Calvinist teaching is. Lutherans always end up going back to the writings of Luther to get a better feel for what Luther was arguing. As Anglicans, we don't do that. Even though Cranmer wrote the 1549 Book of Common Prayer, we don't always go back to his writings to see what he said about different topics to get a better feel for it. We, unlike the Protestants, really believe that we didn't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We wanted to keep a lot of the old understandings, traditions, and practices and adhere to what the early church really was doing, even though Protestants will always tell you they're doing the exact same thing. So when we get into theological debates, we always want to go back to the patristic fathers, the early church leaders. And when we do worship, we want to continue our worship the way it was done in the early church. So Anglican liturgics really requires a look way back into the early centuries of the Christian faith to get an understanding of how that faith was lived out and how worship was lived out, because it was in that context that liturgy emerged, and a lot of what we do today draws directly from that. So we may preach like Protestants, but we worship like Roman Catholics, and that's not an accident, and it's not a compromise. One of the things that was never really up for grabs was the primacy of liturgy and worship at the center of the faith life of the community of God and the people of God. So as we go through this class together, we're going to spend first a fair amount of time with the Foley book trying to get a broad sweep of exactly what has happened liturgically over the centuries. Foley writes from a Catholic perspective. And then we'll look at the other texts that bring in more of the Anglican perspective on different parts of the liturgy to get a better feel for it. So there'll be moments where this is going to feel like a history course, and there are going to be moments where it feels like a theology course. I would encourage you just to put up with both and hang with it as we go through it. That way, when it all comes together as liturgy, it'll make a lot more sense to you. And you'll see that the vestments, the rituals, the prayers, the ceremonies, the things that we do in unison, the things that we do on our knees, the things that we do in procession, it'll all come to make a lot more sense as we work our way through all of this content. So, the Foley book is by far the hardest of the books for this class. I would just encourage you to stay with it these first few weeks and try to keep up with the reading. It'll get to be a lot more manageable as we go further in. But Foley will create a tremendous foundation off which we can then build. So I hope we have a great first week together, and I look forward to seeing you in the classroom. God bless you.